The fleet that shouldn't exist. The sky remained black for 3 full hours. No stars, no sunlight, just darkness. Silent, heavy, watching. People across the galaxy were frozen in fear. Every screen, every communicator, every channel showed the same image. A massive shadow above the capital planet. No one could explain it. No one could understand how such a fleet even existed. Alien scientists tried to scan the ships. Their scanners failed. They tried to read energy signatures. Nothing matched. They tried to contact the fleet. No answer. Inside the Galactic Intelligence Command Center, a dozen alien minds worked without rest. Tall screens showed diagrams, measurements, and spinning holograms, but none of it made sense. "These engines," whispered a Krill scientist. "They are bending light." "No, not bending," another added. "Consuming." "What kind of power core can do that?" The head of intelligence, a six-eyed creature named Viren, stared at the data with growing fear. "These ships are hundreds of years ahead of us." One of his officers spoke up. "Sir, that's not possible. Humans are a young species. They've only been spacefaring for 300 years. We've been flying for 3,000. Viren didn't respond. He just looked up at the dark sky through the ceiling's glass. "They didn't evolve fast," he whispered. "They were hiding." Across the stars, panic grew. On trade planets, markets closed early. People gathered in temples and churches, whispering old prayers. On military planets, officers ran drills, loading weapons, launching fighter ships. But none of them dared fly toward the Black Armada. They had seen what happened to the Xervan outpost. Just 12 hours ago, the Xervan Empire sent 30 warships to intercept the human fleet. Their ships were advanced, fast, armed with heavy plasma cannons. All contact was lost within 8 seconds. No wreckage was found. No signal was received. They were just gone. In a dusty, far-off desert planet, an old alien historian named Kalzar searched his private archives. He coughed as he opened a locked drawer and pulled out a thin, forgotten file. Project Dark Horizon. The pages were yellowed. Some were marked redacted. They were written in old human languages, with strange symbols and notes beside them. He read slowly. His hands began to shake. "It was never a myth," he said to no one. "The humans warned us. A secret program from before they joined the stars, before they even met us." His assistant, a young insectoid girl, tilted her head. "What is it, teacher?" Kalzar looked up with wide, terrified eyes. "They built a fleet, not to explore, not to colonize, but to protect their future. They sent it into the dark, and told no one. Why? Because they knew this day would come." In the Galactic Senate, leaders gathered once more. Their faces were not proud anymore. They were pale, confused, angry, afraid. "We must respond," shouted a general. "We cannot let them intimidate us." "Have you seen the scans?" asked another. "They have gravity weapons, dark matter shields, ships that don't reflect light. They shouldn't even exist," yelled a third. "This breaks every known law of physics." The human delegate stood silently, just like before. "You never asked how we survived our past," he said calmly. "You never wondered how Earth rose after each war, after each invasion. We learned something you forgot." The room fell silent again. "What did you learn?" asked the High Chancellor. The human looked up at the black sky through the glass. "To prepare, without showing our teeth." Somewhere inside the massive human fleet, deep in a command ship shaped like a floating blade, an old woman stood in front of a control panel. She wore no medals, no armor. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned like fire. This was Admiral Niakel, commander of the Black Armada. She pressed a button. A blue light blinked. "All ships, hold position," she said. "No fire unless fired upon. Our goal is peace, But if they try to harm Earth again, she paused. We block out more than just their sky. Meanwhile, back on the capital world, alien news reports tried to calm the people. No shots have been fired, one anchor said. The human fleet seems peaceful, for now. But fear had already spread too far. On a moon near the capital, an alien military leader made a mistake. Without orders, he launched a small probe ship toward the human fleet to scan up close. The probe never made it halfway. A single beam of light touched it, and it turned into dust. The humans didn't send a message. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. In the following hours, something strange began to happen. Human ships began to move, slowly, carefully, toward orbit of planets that once hurt human colonies. They didn't attack. They didn't invade. Instead, they dropped something. Crates. Inside the crates were medical supplies, food, water, and data chips, carrying messages from families lost during past alien raids. Messages that said, "We forgive you." The galaxy watched in silence. "They are stronger than us," whispered a senator. "And yet, they are kinder." But not everyone was at peace. In the shadows of the outer sectors, powerful alien warlords gathered. "If these humans are gods now," said one, "then we must become devils." As the Black Armada hung in the sky like a silent moon, a single phrase appeared on every screen across the galaxy. "We came in peace. We prepared in silence. We wait in the dark." And still, no one knew the full truth. This fleet shouldn't exist. But it did, and it was only the beginning. They took our kindness for weakness. The stars were quiet again. The Black Armada had not moved in 2 days. They floated above the capital world like shadows frozen in time. No weapons fired, no demands made, just silence. But the silence was louder than any war. Across the galaxy, alien empires gathered their councils. Some called for peace, others called for war. But one question burned in every mind. Why are the humans really here? General Vorak of the Turn Dominion sat in his steel command center. He had once crushed 3 species in a single campaign. He believed in strength, not words. He watched the human fleet on a giant screen. "They wait because they're scared," he growled. "All bark, no bite." A young officer cleared her throat. "Sir, we reviewed the destruction of the Servan fleet. They were erased in seconds. No trace." Vorak waved a hand. "Tricks. Human technology is strange, yes, but we've seen stranger. We'll test them." He turned toward his strategy table. "Prepare the fleet." But not all were planning to fight. On a small research planet called Serenfor, a group of alien scientists studied an old human satellite found drifting near a star. It had a damaged hull, faded writing, and 2 simple words on the side. Voyager 1. It was over 1,000 years old. Inside it were images, sounds, and greetings from Earth's early days. Music, photos, voices saying hello in many languages. Dr. Hellas, a scholar from the Yuxari species, examined the data with awe. "They wanted to meet the universe," he said softly. "Not conquer it. Just meet it." His assistant tilted her head. "Then why the Black Armada?" Hellas looked at the floating ships above and whispered, "Because they were never welcomed, only hurt." On the mining world of Dirath Prime, the people were still recovering from a brutal pirate attack years ago. Their pleas for help had gone unanswered back then. The Galactic Union had said the world was too unimportant. But a single human freighter had arrived anyway. It had no weapons, just one doctor and a few crates of supplies. He saved hundreds of lives. Now, the people of Dirath gathered in silence, watching the sky as the Black Armada passed slowly overhead. They didn't scream. They didn't run. Instead, they lit lanterns. Not in fear, but in thanks. In the Senate hall, meetings turned into arguments. "They're dangerous," one senator shouted. "Their silence is a threat." "They've made no demands," another replied. And they've hurt no one since the outpost. But they erased a fleet. They erased an attack, not a people. In the middle of the chaos stood the human delegate, still quiet, still calm. An alien noble walked up to him. "Why don't you order your fleet to leave?" The human looked at him, then at the stars. "Because we remember everything." Years ago, a human colony named HFY was attacked by a group of alien raiders. The colony had no army, no weapons. They sent out distress calls to the Galactic Union. No help came. When the raiders finished, only a few survivors were left. One of them was a young girl named Sarah. Today, Sarah stood on the bridge of a Black Armada command ship. She wasn't a child anymore. She wore black armor now, a commander's badge on her chest, and her eyes, once filled with fear, now burned with quiet fire. She looked down at the world that had once laughed at her kind. She spoke softly to her crew. "Remember HFY. Remember the silence that answered our screams." They nodded and waited. One of the oldest alien leaders, Chancellor Valtheran of the Myric people, stood before the Union's High Council. His voice was slow, heavy with age. "I was there," he said, "the day Earth joined the Union. They came in peace. They offered gifts. They offered knowledge. We gave them ridicule. They gave us trust. We gave them betrayal." He looked around the room. "We taught them to hide their strength, and now we see what they've hidden." No one spoke. On a distant moon, an alien warlord named Kravos gathered a fleet of mercenaries. He had never believed in peace. "Their ships are big," he told his soldiers, "but every giant can fall." He launched his fleet straight at the Black Armada. They never made it. This time, the humans didn't erase them. They stopped them, paralyzed their engines, shut down their power, and then sent every single ship back, untouched, floating, with one message on every console: "Don't make us prove it again." Back on Earth, the people watched the events unfold from across the galaxy. Families gathered in parks and rooftops to look at the stars. Old veterans whispered to children about the old projects: Dark Horizon, Eclipse Protocol, the Silent Shield. Projects that no one had believed were real. They were. In a small alien school on a peaceful farming world, a teacher told her class about the human myths they once laughed at. One student raised his hand. "Teacher, are the humans monsters?" The teacher paused, thinking. "No," she said, "but we turned them into something we don't understand." Another student asked, "Will they hurt us?" The teacher looked out the window at the sky. "I don't think they want to," she said, "but they will, if they have to." The galaxy was quiet again. But now, that silence meant something new. Not weakness. Not peace. Warning. Because kindness is not the same as softness. And now, the galaxy had learned a painful truth. They took human kindness for weakness. And now, they were remembering everything they had done. The day we took back the stars. The stars had not changed. They still sparkled cold and distant. Planets still turned. Suns still burned. But everything felt different now. The galaxy had watched the Black Armada block out the sky. They had seen warships that should not exist. They had felt the silence of a power that spoke no threats, but made every ruler tremble. And then, the humans moved. Not to conquer. Not to destroy. But to take back what was theirs. It began with Vestanine, a once thriving human colony lost 20 years ago. It had been overrun by mercenaries, looted, burned, its people scattered or killed. The Galactic Union had called it a sad tragedy, but offered no help. Now the first ships of the Black Armada entered Vesta's orbit. They were silent. No weapons raised, no warnings given. The local raider lord, Bryn Sek, prepared his forces. "We defeated the humans once," he said to his men. "We can do it again." But the humans didn't come down with guns. They came with a signal, A calm voice echoed through every speaker and system on the planet. This colony belonged to Earth. You destroyed it. You hurt our people. Now, we return. You have 1 hour to leave. Laughter echoed from Bryn's camp. But as the hour passed, shadows began to fall. The sky turned dark. Not black like before, but filled with shades. Human dropships, silent drones, orbital machines humming with low energy. Exactly at the 1 hour mark, the raiders' weapons stopped working. Their tanks froze. Their ships shut down. One by one, the mercenaries were captured, not killed. When it was over, not a single human had died. Vestinine was free. News spread like wildfire. Humans take back lost colony without firing a shot. They do not want war. They want justice. In distant corners of the galaxy, small alien species who had once lived in fear now looked up with new hope. If the humans rise, said a young Drick scholar, maybe we don't have to hide anymore. Meanwhile, on the capital planet, a new kind of fear had begun to grow. Not from destruction, but from respect. A popular alien news host stared into the camera. "This is not a war," she said softly. "It is a return." The footage behind her showed a line of human soldiers walking through an abandoned Earth outpost on Kentor 4, slowly raising the Earth flag again. Children watched across planets as the Earth symbol waved proudly in the wind. And in every home, someone whispered the same words. They are taking back the stars. But not everyone was happy. In the dark space near the rim worlds, a hidden meeting took place. 7 powerful alien warlords, some criminals, some rulers, sat at a long metal table. They spoke in hushed tones. "We must stop them." "How?" "They've done nothing wrong. They've shown us what they can do. They've taken nothing that wasn't already theirs." One slammed his fist. "If we wait, they will rise too far. They'll rule us all." The room fell silent. Then one voice spoke, calm, confident, cruel. "Then we must strike Earth. Quietly, swiftly. While they watch the stars, we strike their heart." Back near Earth, inside the flagship of the Black Armada, Commander Sarah stood at the central command table. She looked tired, but focused. Admiral Kale walked up behind her. "You've done well," the Admiral said. "I haven't done enough," Sarah replied. "There are still colonies lost. People forgotten. We have to bring them home." The Admiral nodded. "Then we go next to Helon's Reach." Sarah looked up. That name meant something. It was where her brother had died, begging for help that never came. Now, she would return. Helon's Reach was no longer a battlefield. It was a prison world, owned by a powerful alien corporation. They had turned it into a labor camp. When the human fleet appeared above it, alarms rang. Defense towers turned online. Fighter ships scrambled to intercept. The humans didn't flinch. One voice broadcast across every frequency. "Release the prisoners, or we will." The corporation laughed. So humanity showed them a new weapon. Not a bomb, not a laser, but a pulse. An invisible wave of energy that shut down every system on the planet for exactly 10 minutes. In that time, human soldiers landed, opened the prison gates, and carried the weak, starving survivors onto their ships. When the lights came back on, the prisoners were gone, and carved into the prison walls was a message. "You forgot us. We did not forget you." Even alien civilians began changing their minds. "They're not monsters," said a teacher on a core world. "They're protectors." A merchant from the outer ring said, "They had every reason to burn us down, but they help instead." The myth of the Black Armada had become something else. No longer a warning. Now, a legend. Back on the capital planet, for the first time in centuries, a human pilot entered an alien bar. He wore no armor, no weapons. The moment he stepped in, every voice fell silent. Dozens of aliens turned to look at him. The pilot walked to the bar, nodded to the bartender, and ordered tea. No one stopped him. No one insulted him. No one laughed. After a long moment, one alien stood from a corner and said, "Welcome back." The human smiled. "Thanks. We've always been here. You just didn't see us." That night, across 100 worlds, alien children sat with their parents and asked the same question. Are the humans good guys or bad? And no one had a simple answer. Because the truth was harder than a story. They were not saviors. They were not devils. They were human. And this was the day they began to take back the stars. Legends are born in silence. The galaxy no longer spoke of humans with laughter. They spoke in whispers now. Not because humans threatened them, but because humans didn't speak at all. In a quiet village on a green moon called Varnus 6, an old alien sat by the fire, surrounded by children. They had heard rumors, fleets, shadows, and glowing ships in the sky. Now, they wanted to know the truth. "Elder," one child asked, "what are the humans really like?" The elder stared into the flames for a long moment. Then said softly, "They used to talk like we do. They used to hope. They used to dream out loud. Then why are they silent now?" The elder leaned closer. Because no one listened. Across the stars, a quiet fear had spread. Human ships were still reclaiming lost colonies, but they never sent demands, never issued threats, never bragged. They arrived. They acted. Then they left. No banners, no parades, no names carved into stone. Only one thing was always left behind. A message. Sometimes carved into metal, sometimes whispered into the air. We remember. In a hidden room inside the Galactic Union's Intelligence Center, top officials gathered around a giant screen. On it was the image of a single human ship, Vanguard 13. It was small, no bigger than a cargo shuttle. But last week, it had disabled an entire pirate fleet without a single shot fired. One by one, the pirate ships lost power, froze mid-space, and were left drifting. Now, everyone was asking, how? No answer came. The humans refused to explain. "They're using something beyond us," one general muttered. "Something they built while we mocked them." An older scientist, a soft-spoken bird-like creature, added, "Maybe silence is their weapon." On the rim world of Carillon, where alien soldiers once enslaved a human mining crew, something strange happened. At midnight, all lights went out. When morning came, every slave collar had vanished. And in the sky, floating like a dream, was a single black drone. It showed an image, the Earth symbol glowing white. The entire planet surrendered within hours without a single life lost. The more humans stayed silent, the louder their legend grew. Alien artists started painting murals of human ships, wrapped in stardust and shadow. Musicians wrote songs called the Eclipse March and When the Sky Went Quiet. Even children started playing games called Don't Wake the Humans. Back on Earth, leaders watched from afar. They saw how the galaxy had changed. Where once humanity was ignored, now even whispers of Earth brought silence to rooms. The president of Earth sat with Admiral Nia Kale in a deep space station overlooking a glowing nebula. "Are we doing the right thing?" the president asked. The admiral didn't blink. "We're not attacking. We're reminding." Of what? That kindness has limits, and memory has teeth. Meanwhile, in a distant nebula, an ancient alien ship emerged from a black hole. The crew was made of explorers, scientists who had vanished long ago. They had survived outside time, and now returned to a galaxy they no longer recognized. They scanned the stars. They saw the silence. And they asked one simple question. What happened while we were gone? A passing drone from the Black Armada answered with a single phrase. Humanity woke up. On a small academic world named Altria 3, university halls once filled with anti-human lectures now showed new subjects. One course was called Human Warfare Without Violence. Another, Tactical Silence, How the Black Armada won without words. A student raised his hand. "But Professor," he asked, "if the humans are so powerful, why haven't they taken control?" The professor stared at the floor. "Because they don't need to." At the center of the galaxy, in a giant orbiting station called Solaris, the Galactic Union prepared for a new vote. Should humanity be feared or followed? Some said humans were too dangerous. Others said they were the only ones who had shown restraint. One old alien admiral said, "They came with open hands. We slapped them. Now they wear gloves made of stars." Back in the depths of space, a human pilot sat alone in a small observation ship. He watched as a former enemy planet slowly rebuilt itself, thanks to human engineers. No one asked for payment. No one asked for power. He sent a single message back to Earth. "They're starting to understand us." And Earth sent back one word: good. In dark places, where wars still burned, where pirates still hunted, and where evil still ruled, there was a new phrase being passed in secret. "If you see the sky turn black, run." And in those places, even the cruelest hearts began to wonder, what if we were wrong about humans? On a lonely moon, an old statue stood, once built to mock human myths. It showed a cartoonish human warrior with a wooden sword and helmet. But someone, no one knows who, had quietly carved new words into the base. They spoke softly. Now we listen loudly. By now, no one laughed at the human myths, because those myths had become real, and those stories had become law. And still, the Black Armada watched from the shadows, not to rule, not to destroy, but to remind every star in the galaxy. Legends are not born from noise. Legends are born in silence. You wanted to see monsters. The galaxy had seen the power. It had felt the silence. It had tasted the fear. But fear doesn't last forever. And some forget. Some grow bold. In a hidden sector on the edge of known space, a meeting was held inside a massive hollow asteroid. It wasn't a council of peace. It was a council of war. 7 alien warlords sat around a cold metal table. Each had their own scars. Each had built empires through pain and fire. And each one had a single question. What if we attack Earth directly? The others went silent. Then the largest one, Korlax, the spine taker, snarled. "We talk like cowards. We let them walk over our skies, take back their planets, humiliate us, and we just watch." Another warlord hissed, "They haven't attacked anyone without cause." Korlax slammed his fist. The table cracked. "They've already won the minds of the people. They don't need planets. They control fear." He leaned forward. "If we want to break them, we strike at the heart." The plan was simple. Fast ships, no warnings, no mercy. They would hit Earth with a single sharp strike, take out major cities, shut down communications, and prove to the galaxy that humans could bleed. They launched in silence. 10 ships, stealth drives, advanced weapons, all aimed at the home of humanity. But Earth wasn't sleeping. Not anymore. Above the blue planet, in the upper layer of orbit, a ring of black satellites hung like silent guardians. Each one looked dead, inactive, like ancient space junk, until the enemy ships arrived. At first, nothing happened. The enemy fleet came closer, undetected by most sensors. They smiled. "This is too easy," one pilot said. But then, the stars blinked. Not once, not twice. Every star in view blinked at the same time, and the enemy pilots felt something cold. Very cold. Then the black satellites opened, and something woke up. Across Earth, no alarms rang. No people screamed, because there was nothing to see. The defense system didn't fire missiles. It didn't launch counterships. It just activated. 1 second the attackers were flying. The next, they were gone. No explosions, no wreckage, no sound. just vanished. Back in the asteroid war room, Korlak stared at a blank screen. What happened? He roared. His general said nothing. The signal was gone. The ships were gone. And then something strange happened. All of their screens turned on at once. One by one. Black screens. Then white words appeared. Only one sentence. You wanted to see monsters. Then the screens blinked again and showed a face. Not angry, not yelling, just a human face. Calm, focused, eyes glowing with quiet fire. And he said only one word. Hello. Then everything shut off. Panic spread faster than ever before. Because the enemy hadn't just failed. They had disappeared. And Earth had said nothing. No threats. No warnings. Just silence. And one word. Hello. Now, the galaxy truly understood. Humans didn't need armies. They didn't need invasions. They needed only one thing. Memory. Because they remembered everything done to them. And when pushed too far, they didn't become warriors. They became something else. Across the stars, stories changed again. No longer tales of ships in the sky. Now whispers spoke of what happens when you push Earth too far. A space station orbiting the gas giant Threx 9 reported seeing something in the clouds. Dark shapes. Moving like birds made of smoke. No life signs. No metal. But they floated and watched. When asked if it was human tech, the Union issued no statement. The station was empty 2 days later. No signs of attack. Only one message left carved into the control room wall. We warned you. Back on Earth, in the control room of the Silent Shield Defense Network, Commander Sarah sat alone. She stared at the redouts. The enemy ships had never touched Earth's sky. Not even close. Her hand hovered over a panel labeled Black Protocol. But she didn't press it. She never wanted to. Because the truth was, Earth never wanted war. It just prepared for it when no one else cared. In a quiet garden on the moon, Admiral Nia Kale walked beside a young alien girl who had been saved from a destroyed world. Why do people fear you? The girl asked. The Admiral looked at the stars. They don't fear us, she said. They fear what they did to us. Later that night, a message went out across the galaxy. From Earth, a broadcast. No video, no music, just a voice. A calm, human voice. We will not fight for glory. We will not conquer. We will not burn your worlds. We will not rule. But if you come for our home, our people, or our peace, you will see why you once feared the dark. The broadcast ended. No response needed. And somewhere, in the empty parts of space, a new myth was born. A myth told in silence. A myth that said, don't wake the monsters. Because sometimes, the kindest ones, hide the darkest fire. Now you tell our myths. It began as a whisper, then a rumor, then a lesson. Now, it was law. Across the galaxy, alien children sat in classrooms, reading stories that once were jokes. But now, they were sacred. And the first myth they all learned was the one their ancestors laughed at. The Black Armada will return when the stars forget to care. They had forgotten. The Armada had returned. And now, the galaxy remembered. 50 years had passed. Not a shot had been fired in decades. No wars, no invasions, no blockades. The galaxy was quiet, not from fear, but from understanding. The Union had changed. Its new council building floated peacefully above a neutral moon. There were no flags, only one symbol, etched into the ceiling for all to see. A simple white circle with lines radiating out like light. The Earth crest. The new generation no longer called humans primitive. Now they called them the Watchers. On the desert world of Vorathri, a schoolteacher told her class a story. It was about a small human ship long ago that sent music into the stars. How strange, One child said. They didn't ask for gold or planets, just connection. The teacher smiled. That's who they were, she said, before the pain changed them. Another student asked, will they ever talk again? The teacher paused, then said, they never stopped. We just weren't listening. On a quiet hill overlooking the city of New Kyoto on Earth, Admiral Nia Kale sat on a wooden bench. She was old now. Her uniform was folded neatly beside her. She didn't wear medals. She didn't need to. A group of alien students approached her, shy, respectful. One raised their hand. Admiral, why didn't you take revenge? She smiled, soft and slow. Because revenge is loud, she said. But justice waits. Another asked, why did the Black Armada never speak? She looked up at the stars. We spoke for 100 years. No one listened. So we stopped using words. Then she looked back at them. And when we stopped speaking, you finally heard us. On the once hostile world of Karnas 7, now rebuilt as a peace academy, an old alien warrior walked through a museum filled with war relics. He stopped in front of a display. It showed a simple human helmet, burnt, cracked, left behind in the dirt of some forgotten battlefield. A small plaque read. He did not raise his gun. He raised a child. The warrior stared for a long time, then bowed. Across the stars, myths had changed. No longer did alien cultures fear the humans. They respected them. Some even loved them. Not because of war, but because of restraint. Because when humans had the power to burn everything, they chose to rebuild. On a moon that once held human prisoners, now turned into a temple, monks of many species gathered each week to light candles. They said no prayers. They only sat in silence. A young visitor asked why. The head monk replied, because silence was their voice. Somewhere beyond the stars, far outside known space, parts of the Black Armada still waited, hidden in black space. Silent, patient, watching, not as rulers, not as threats, but as guardians. Each ship powered by old pain, old promises, and one oath spoken long ago. If the stars forget how to be kind, we will remind them. On Earth, a small girl stood by a memorial wall. She traced her fingers across the names of lost colonies, places that no longer existed. Her father knelt beside her. Why do we keep remembering them? She asked. Because they didn't forget us, he whispered. She looked up at the sky. Will we ever need the Black Armada again? He looked too. I hope not, he said, but I'm glad they're still out there. In a dusty alien library, a scroll was carefully unfolded. It was ancient, burned at the edges, written in a language nearly lost. The last line was clear. They came as whispers. We ignored them. They came as fire. We feared them. They left in silence. We remembered them. And so, the final lesson of the galaxy was written not in books, but in quiet skies, and shared not through war, but through myth. Because now, everyone told the human stories. They taught their children. They painted the ships in art. They wrote songs, poems, and prayers, not to worship, not to fear, but to honor. Because in the end, the humans didn't want the stars. They just wanted peace. And when they didn't get it, they didn't become rulers. They became the memory of what happens when kindness is pushed too far. The final message left by the Black Armada, still floating silently above a peaceful world, was short. We came in peace. You made us myths. Now you tell our stories. The end. They called us primitive until the sky turned black. The great hall of the Galactic Senate was full of light, laughter, and pride. Alien leaders from 100 worlds sat on high seats, dressed in shining robes and armor. The topic of today's meeting was simple: the humans. They were new, weak, strange, and very emotional. An old blue-skinned senator from the Zeltrani Empire stood up. "They still believe in old stories," he said, his voice calm but filled with mockery. "They talk about mythical warships, fleets that vanish into black holes, and something they call the Black Armada." Laughter filled the chamber. Another senator, this one from the Orcs' kingdom, added, "They even think their ancestors created invisible weapons, but all we see are rusty ships and slow minds." The entire hall roared with laughter. To them, humans were nothing but a joke, a small species with small dreams, useful for mining, farming, and cheap labor, but not for war, not for leadership, not for fear. Then the human delegate stood. He was not tall, not strong. His suit was plain, his voice calm, but his eyes were steady. "You laugh," he said softly. "You call our myths foolish, but stories are warnings. And some stories are true." The hall went quiet for a moment, then erupted in even louder laughter. "You speak of shadows in space," the Zeltrani senator said. "Ghost fleets, human fairy tales." The human gave a small nod. "The Black Armada is real," he said, "and if you keep hurting our people, it will return." The laughter was louder than ever now. Some senators wiped tears from their eyes, unable to stop giggling. But far above them, beyond their sky, something had already started. In deep space, near the edge of the known galaxy, scanners on a Xervan military outpost began beeping. Lights flashed red. Officers shouted in confusion. Unidentified objects approaching at high speed. "How many?" the commander asked. The officer stared at the screen. His hands trembled. "All of them," he whispered. Back on the capital planet, the sun began to dim. At first, no one noticed. The sky was bright. The day was normal. But slowly, shadows grew longer. The light began to fade. People looked up. A strange darkness spread across the sky. "Is it an eclipse?" someone asked. "No, it's too fast." Then the first images appeared on the news screens. Hundreds, no, thousands of ships, black, smooth, and silent, moving like a wave across the stars. Alien cities stopped. Traffic halted. Children pointed at the sky, eyes wide in fear. In the Senate hall, a voice crackled through the comms. A voice from space. "This is the human fleet." Everyone froze. The voice continued. Calm. Cold. "You were warned." The sky above the Senate darkened completely. A massive shadow fell over the planet. Looking up, all they could see was black metal, blocking out the stars. The Black Armada. The same fleet from ancient human myths. But it was real, and it had returned. Panic swept through the Senate. "Raise shields," someone shouted. "Send ships," another cried. But their systems failed. Nothing worked. No signal could pass through the black curtain in the sky. The human delegate stood quietly, watching the chaos. "You could have listened," he said. "You could have respected us. But you chose laughter." The old Zeltrani senator's face was pale now. What do they want?" he whispered. The human turned to him, eyes calm. "We don't want war," he said. "We want peace, but if you harm us again, the sky will turn black forever." The screens blinked. A message appeared, written in every alien language. "You laughed. Now you will remember." High above, the human warships remained silent. They didn't fire. They didn't move. But they didn't leave either. They simply waited, reminding the galaxy that humans were not weak. They were just patient. And now, the galaxy had something new to fear. Not the ships, not the weapons, but the old human myths that were never myths at all.